It was a matter of when, not if.
Governor Holcomb says Indiana has its first confirmed case.
Declaring a state of emergency certainly doesn't mean any family should panic.
I am formally announcing a disaster proclamation for Illinois.
We have everything prepared to do the best we can to handle these situations.
Stay home if you're sick, except to get medical care.
I want folks to understand this is going to affect your daily life.
We will get through this together. Practice good hygiene and look out for one another.
80 to 85% of these cases are mild cases, so many people do not get hospitalized with this.
Good evening and welcome to this 14 News special, Coronavirus, a community conversation. I'm Randy Moore.
And I'm Jackie Monroe, and we are live right now to bring you up-to-the-minute information on COVID-19 and how it affects us here across the tri-state.
What we won't be hearing tonight, though, is anything about fear.
Yeah, what we are going to hear is from our top experts about how to keep yourself and your family safe and what to expect if the virus hits us hard.
Changes happening at nursing facilities, in travel, and on the stock market.
We'll be taking you to the studios of our partner, WNIN. We have some folks asking questions there and have questions that you sent in to our email and to the 14 News Facebook page. We're asking the questions you want answers to throughout the broadcast.
And back here in our 14 News studios, we will have a discussion with representatives from 3 of our largest medical organizations.
But first, 14 News reporter Joseph Payton has gathered the very latest information on the coronavirus outbreak, including breaking news about the Evansville-Vandenberg School Corporation and from Owensboro Public Schools. Joseph?
And that breaking news is going to affect a lot of parents and students here in this area for the next couple of weeks. Just hours ago, EVSC announced that schools will be closing tomorrow at 5 p.m. after the school day. So here's what this means for the students. Next week will be considered e-learning days where students are here with us tonight, so stay tuned. Meanwhile, I myself have been monitoring the latest developments all day long. So take a look at this. We have some of the latest up-to-date numbers. This is as up-to-date as you're going to get right here on 14 News. This has all of the updated coronavirus statistics from around the world. So as of right at this moment, we have 128,000 confirmed cases around the world, resulting in over 4,000 deaths. Now, over half of those, 68,000, have actually been recovered around the world. However, none of those have actually been recovered here in the United States. So I want to bring up a map of the United States and the world here. So this is all of the red dots you see here. The bigger they are means the more cases of these that you'll see around the world. Now, here in Indiana, the Department of Health is reporting 12 confirmed cases here in this state, but still no known cases actually in Vanderburgh County. So the effects of this disease are still being felt. The last 24 hours has been an absolute whirlwind of cancellations and adjustments, all with the greater good in mind. Like leaders all over the country, Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear took to the podium just this morning.
We've been communicating with all 120 judges, and we have their emergency management networks up and communicating with us.
But just hours ago, before many of you even got home from work, Beshear was back with another development. 2 more cases of COVID-19 in the Commonwealth.
Our understanding is that both of the 2 individuals are isolated. We believe one is in a hospital and one is at home.
The number of positive cases continues to grow, and now even the sports world has taken notice. It'll be a March without the madness. The NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament is suspended indefinitely. Many conference tournaments canceled altogether. And even here in Indiana, those kids still competing for a state basketball championship will have to do it without fans in the stands.
You know, kids like to play in front of people, and I think that it'll impact the game. It'll feel like a scrimmage.
This announcement coming less than 24 hours after the NBA suspended its season. And just today, the MLS, NHL, and MLB followed suit. State and local government officials have also sprung into action.
Child care and daycare facilities should institute social distancing and minimize large groups, and nursing facilities and hospitals should restrict and screen visitors.
Without perspective, these sudden cancellations and adjustments can be scary. Mayor Lloyd Winnecke wants people to continue normal life, but with more caution.
Make sure you know where you are so you're not putting yourself in any greater danger. But we are not saying don't live your lives, just be smart about what you do.
An Owensboro couple is still quarantined aboard the Grand Princess cruise ship docked in San Francisco. Tuesday night, 14 News broke this story, talking with Chris and Nikki Hall, who are expected to be sent to a military base for a 14-day quarantine.
Evan Gorman just talked to them via Facebook for this update.
Let me call you right back. They're making an announcement on the captain.
Okay.
Captain.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Owensboro couple Chris and Nikki Hall on a vacation they'll never forget. The two among more than a dozen Kentuckians who have been aboard the Grand Princess cruise ship, now docked at the Port of Oakland. They got there Monday night.
Yeah, so this is our background. It kind of looks like a movie set, you know.
There are now 21 confirmed cases of coronavirus on the ship.
And so right now, we still feel fine. I mean, we're healthy. We just we don't have any symptoms of anything.
Chris says that message coming this afternoon from the captain was routine, keeping passengers informed, adding they're working with the CDC, coordinating flights. As of this afternoon, the two still in their room.
We've been told that we will be able to self-quarantine at home from the state, but the issue is we're still on the ship.
Chris says to pass time, they've been watching movies, TV series, and the crew has provided them with room service and some entertainment like games to keep them occupied.
They took our luggage early yesterday morning and said pack for 24 hours, so we're on our last inch. And then during the quarantine process, we haven't been able to get to the laundromat, so my wife, who's standing here next to me, she ended up doing some laundry there in the sink, and so we had to hang some laundry up on the balcony to let it dry.
More than 1,000 passengers from the cruise will be tested.
Hopefully you guys can return home really soon.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. And we'll have more on the changes to the travel industry a little bit later in the show.
But right now, let's meet our highly esteemed group of experts and community leaders. Joining us now, Dr. James Porter, president of Deaconess Health System, Dr. Carl Sash with Ascension Medical Group and IU School of Medicine, and Dr. Francis Dufresne, chief medical officer at Owensboro Health.
And we want to point out that each of these leaders has set aside any competition tonight so that each of you can get the best information possible. So we thank all of you for being here very much. And Dr. Porter, you run Deaconess Health System. So as the largest medical organization, what can you tell us specifically about COVID-19? What makes it so mysterious?
It's a virus very similar to other viruses that cause cold, influenza, similar conditions. This virus has not been in humans before. It crossed from animals to humans in China, so we don't have any immunity to it. It also appears to be more contagious than many viruses, and in some people, significantly more deadly.
All right, we're going to get much more from this panel in just a moment, but we want to bring in our partner, WNIN. David James is there right now talking to some of our neighbors downtown. David? Neighbors downtown. David?
Well, I'm looking around the room, and I'm the most senior person here, so I guess I'm going to speak on behalf of the senior citizens in the tri-state. And this question to your medical experts: if a senior received the senior dose flu shot and a pneumonia shot, is that person better protected against COVID-19? What do you think?
Dr. Sash, you want to take that?
Please. Unfortunately not. The immunity that we get from the pneumonia shot and from the flu shot, which are both critical public health measures that a person can take both for their own health and for the health of their community, they're vital, but they don't help protect you against COVID-19.
All right. And David, do you have another question? David, do you have another question?
Well, I have some younger folks here, Chase and Alicia. And Alicia, I guess you're going to be the spokesperson here. What's your question?
We're being told that the most at-risk people are those with pre-existing conditions like asthma or even diabetes. We're also being told that the least at-risk group are young, healthy people. So my question is, how at-risk truly is a young, healthy person that has a pre-existing condition like asthma?
Dr. Dufresne?
So what we know to date is it is much less common, much less infecting or involving younger people. We're not really sure why that is.
Yeah.
And in this country, we don't have enough experience yet to know how it affects younger people with comorbid conditions. We do know with people who are 60 or over, it really significantly increases their risk, but we're not quite sure yet what it does in the much younger or the pediatric population.
And now to your questions. We've got one from Faith Connell in Evansville. Take a listen.
I would like to know why we're taking the coronavirus more seriously than the flu, because I feel like you're more likely to get the flu than the coronavirus.
Good question.
Well, the flu still, as far as we know, is more prevalent in our community today that will probably change. So it will probably shift to where coronavirus is more prevalent, but right now flu is. Influenza is, we think, about 0.1% of a mortality rate, whereas it looks like from the data out of China, the coronavirus is maybe more like around 2%. So there's a pretty significant difference in the mortality rates.
All right, thanks a lot. And a question now, here's one from Christian Bello of Evansville. Listen.
Is there any type of specific precautions that pregnant women should take against coronavirus?
All right, the question about pregnant women.
So what we know so far is that there's no increased risk for pregnant women. That's not really been reported. And what we recommend to women who are pregnant is to take the same precautions that we recommend to everyone else. Good hand washing, good respiratory hygiene, when you sneeze or cough, wash your hands right away. Try and wear a mask if you're sick. If you're not sick, the mask really doesn't help. But so far, there's no increased risk for pregnant women.
And viewer Madeline Snyder from Fort Branch, Indiana, emailed us, and she had the similar question about the flu shot giving any protection. People are concerned about the protection, and maybe that's why they're buying up all these masks. I know you brought one. Mm-hmm.
Well,
tell us about that?
We need to educate everyone that this mask does not keep me from getting sick.
Right.
When I breathe in, air gets in around. Yeah. This mask is needed for people who are having symptoms to diminish the chances that they will spread the germ, whatever germ it is they have, COVID-19 or otherwise. But this isn't going to help protect you. That comes down to good hand washing, not touching your face, and avoiding those situations where you're going to be more likely to encounter the virus. If we can slow the transmission in our community, we can make sure that our health systems have the resources to take care of people as they get sick. If we can slow it down, we can handle that pace. We can't handle everyone getting sick at once.
Are you having trouble with people taking those?
That's what I hear, and they need to stop because it's the medical professionals that need to give these to the sick people, not the healthy people to protect themselves.
Thank you so much, each one of you. Now, as we've heard from the medical experts, the elderly are among the most vulnerable. Our Erin McNally visited 2 facilities to see what they're doing to keep their residents safe.
Where this virus truly causes massive harm is in facilities with our seniors, especially fragile seniors.
With the number of coronavirus cases in Kentucky rising, the Commonwealth is urging long-term care facilities to put visitor restrictions in place.
We're doing everything that we can.
Executive Director of Fern Terra Assisted Living, Dorothy McFadden, says in recent days, she's received calls from family members concerned about mom or dad.
We're washing the hands.
Over at Carmel Home, the senior living facility is actually in quarantine for the flu.
Because it's our residents are so compromised already, we decided it's best to nip this right away.
Sister Frances says their facility will be playing things by ear. She says they may remain in quarantine if the coronavirus moves closer.
We're not allowing any visitors in. We are also confining the residents. They are staying in their rooms.
Carmel Home is also requiring staff to wear masks. If anyone must enter the building, Sister Frances says they're required to get their temperature taken and to wear a mask.
And I understand that there are Kentuckians out there who worry that they might not be able to see their loved one. I get that.
The executive director of Fern Terra says they're still deciding whether or not to go into lockdown. She says they'll be evaluating the situation day by day. Reporting in Owensboro, Erin McNally, 14 News.
Erin, thanks a lot. Now, more and more senior living communities are implementing visitor restrictions every day now.
Yeah, Josh Bowman is the administrator at Bethel Manor in Evansville, where restrictions just went into place yesterday. And Josh, thanks for being with us. Can you tell us about these new restrictions and precautions?
Yeah, what our whole focus really is on trying to prevent the virus from getting in our facility, and then also going and stepping up infection control rounds, ensuring that our staff have the education they need to make sure that we're not spreading it within if it would happen to enter the facility. So just recently we started, for one, going and screening our employees whenever they're coming in.
Oh.
So what they're doing is they're having to fill out a questionnaire every day. Like, I asked you yesterday if you went to an area that was affected. I'm going to ask you tomorrow, today, all of that. And then also looking for respiratory symptoms that they might have of illness. And then even checking their temperatures to make sure that there's not a temperature. So we're not bringing it in that way through an employee. And then what you've probably seen mostly recently is that a lot of facilities are now shutting down kind of visitation unless it's medically necessary for the resident to either go out or have people come in. So we've still got a few agencies coming in, like hospice helping out, that kind of thing. But otherwise, we've limited that a little bit more.
So what an adjustment it is. I mean, families like to see their loved ones. The loved ones like to see their families. How are the families handling this?
And that is a hard thing. I think for every facility, as they've implemented this, they've really had to think about what they've had to do with it and just making that good decision to close down that. But most of the time what we're doing is we're going and we're calling the families, letting them know, like, you can call anytime, we can bring a phone to your loved one. We're trying to use some of these other technology things too, like offering FaceTime.
Yeah,
I've seen that at a lot of buildings
them.
that are doing that. And then another thing that we're doing now is we actually have like a family engagement app that we've implemented, which I think is kind of unique in our area. So then that way our activity staff and other staff are able to take pictures, and the family can have an app. They can get a notification on their phone. They can look at it and be like, oh, mom or grandma, they're playing bingo now, or they're going and doing a craft,
updates
that
then.
kind of
So
thing.
they feel more connected.
So yeah, that's our whole goal, is to be able to, since they can't like physically come into the facility, kind of try to open it up even with our social media too.
All right, Josh,
Thanks
thank
a lot,
you very
Josh.
much.
Best of luck to you.
Our school districts have plans in place in case coronavirus strikes in the tri-state. That live conversation just a minute away.
WNIN and 14 News WFIE are working together tonight to bring you this special program.
WNIN is suspending the pledge programming normally scheduled right now because we think this discussion is important. WNIN is committed to presenting timely, necessary, and accurate information to the community we serve.
During this time of concern and uncertainty, we hope you find tonight's discussion helpful. If you'd like more information, please visit WNIN.org. Thank you.
Can you tell us what you know?
Turning back now to the race for the White House.
The State Board of Elections voted Thursday to set up a new election.
It must be a very emotional day.
The world changed in the blink of an eye.
Children are at the heart of this story.
As communities across the U.S. take measures to prevent coronavirus, many schools have just announced their response plans.
Yes, and we have Superintendent Dr. David Smith from the Evansville-Vanderburgh School Corporation and Public Information Officer Jared Revlett from Owensboro Public Schools. Thank you both very much for being here.
Sure.
Thanks for having us.
We've just learned that both of your schools made big announcements today about what's going to be happening next week with students. Take us through that, will you?
Sure. We will be open tomorrow, but then beginning at 5 p.m. tomorrow night, we're closed, and we'll remain closed until at least March the 27th.
And it's because the buildings need to be not just disinfected, but the kids are still going to be learning via e-learning or something similar, right?
Yes, this next week coming up, we'll do our e-learning protocol, and then the week after that, we're actually on spring break.
That's right.
Yeah, normally in the summertime when kids aren't at school getting their lunches are provided somehow, some way. What are we going to do about feeding kids during this time?
So for Owensboro Public Schools, we're going to be following our summer feeding program protocols that we do, where we can provide meals to students free of charge for anyone under the age of 18. And with this particular instance, we are going to actually be serving both breakfast and lunch meals to people around the community during the school closing days.
All right, very good. Dr. Smith, how about the EVSC?
Doing something very similar to that beginning Tuesday. So the sites that we utilize this summer will be the same sites. All of this information is going out to our parents on evscschools.com. So I would encourage anybody and everyone to follow that. But we too will be providing lunches, and then we'll provide shelf-stable milk for the breakfast the next day.
Good to know.
And this is going to be revisited, you say, like on March 30th, right, to see if it has to be extended longer, because none of us really knows where this is exactly going. The e-learning, they were really designed for sort of short bursts of education, 1 to 3 days, something like that for weather. So this might be interesting, isn't it, how we're going to use this in new ways?
So in Kentucky, you typically, to be a non-traditional instruction district, you have to apply for that before the school year starts. Thankfully, the Kentucky Board of Education has allowed districts across Kentucky who aren't one of those NTI districts to apply for that on an emergency basis, so we can provide those 10 days of instruction for our students while the schools are out and not have to make those days up at the end of the year.
And how about for EVSC?
You know, we've tried to align this new phenomenon to what people already know. So you're right, we've used these basically in short bursts, but I think we're prepared.
Things are moving so fast, I've lost track of time, but it was only a day or two ago that you guys advised parents, get ready, we don't know how this thing's going to develop. Do you think parents are ready?
We hope parents are ready.
Yeah.
As I said, this is uncharted territory, and we did advise our parents earlier this week to plan for what may happen. So we have planned, and we're going to execute that plan. I really do want to express my appreciation to local officials. We're being very proactive in this instance.
Your parents?
Being out of school for a long period of time is certainly rough on parents who work full-time jobs and may struggle with childcare. So we've done everything that we possibly can to prepare the students to be at home, having the ability to provide meals for those families that may not be able to afford them when we're out of school. So we're doing everything we can to work with our parents and to make this transition as smooth as possible for our students, because it's, like you said, it developed very quickly over the past 2 or 3 days.
I think it's caught a lot of people off guard. So what are parents telling you? I'm sure it's like viewers on our end, you've got people on all sides of the spectrum with varying degrees of opinions, but what are you hearing from them? What are they telling you?
I think most parents understand that this is the right thing to do. It's also very frustrating, and I do feel for those individuals that have to choose between staying at home with their child or working. But Tuesday, when we had the community meeting, we did implore employers to please be somewhat lenient with this, because this is not something that has occurred in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the kids are most important, but both of you guys are huge employers. And so if this sickness sweeps through your workforce, we got a big problem.
So with the non-traditional instruction days in our district, our teachers are still going to be available to help students if they come in, if they need help on those assignments during those non-instruction days. They'll be available in the classroom and be available by phone and email. We also will have our employees who aren't teachers, who normally maybe not work on a snow day if they wouldn't come in. We're going to have different duties for them to be able to still collect that paycheck and not lose out on hours while we're out.
In EVSC?
EVSC, we're asking people not to come into our schools because they will be closed, but through virtual learning, we certainly want to make certain that the academic continuation occurs.
Sure.
Thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as we've said, our focus is to inform this evening, but we know that all the talk about a pandemic can create real anxiety and fear. Therapist Marcy Stubbs from Lampion Center is here to help. So Marcy, what are some of the key things to keep in mind to help those that may be feeling anxious about this situation?
The number one thing is, continue your routine. I know things are changing because we're not supposed to be like out in groups and things. This helps keep you regulated and those types of things. Another is, find out some good information before, there's so many places that's giving information that may not be the best information.
And let's talk about kids for a second here. We know a lot of them are hearing about coronavirus. How can we help ease those fears? If they have questions about this, how do we talk to our kids?
Okay. Number one is, as a parent, the way you regulate yourself. If you're anxious, your kids are going to be anxious. Be open with them. Ask them, do they have any questions? Do they have any concerns? The main thing is reassuring them that you're doing everything you possibly can to keep them safe.
And finally, how do we know when it might be time to seek help outside of your home? What kind of feelings or warning signs are we looking for?
The main warning signs are when the anxiety that you feel or the stress that you're feeling are starting to interfere with your normal day-to-day life. If you're not able to keep up with your job or your stress is keeping you from sleeping, it interferes with your eating, any activities that you normally do, then it's time to actually seek help.
And and Lampion Center, one of those services provided here in the community. Marcy, thank you for being with us here.
Thank you.
Very important information.
All right, Beth, thanks a lot. So, you say that you have that high fever and you have trouble breathing.
What can you expect? Joseph Payton will take us through the medical protocol.
WNIN and 14 News WFIE are working together tonight to bring you this special program.
WNIN is suspending the pledge programming normally scheduled right now because we think this discussion is important. WNIN is committed to presenting timely, necessary, and accurate information to the community we serve.
During this time of concern and uncertainty, we hope you find tonight's discussion helpful. If you'd like more information, please visit WNIN.org. Thank you.
Every week on WNIN Lawmakers, we'll talk to the politicians that represent you about the issues that are important to you. This week, our scheduled guests are Senator Vanita Becker and Representative Wendy McNamara. Watch WNIN Lawmakers Fridays at 10 p.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m. on WNIN PBS.
One of our goals tonight is to help take the fear out of the medical process when it comes to coronavirus. What happens if you think you have it? What if you have to go into isolation?
Yeah, well, it may not be quite as scary as you think once you know the facts. Here's Joseph Payton.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Deaconess Midtown Hospital has a nurse triage hotline available for those in need.
The nurse who's on the other end of that phone has specific protocols to run through, specific questions to ask that will help determine whether or not you actually need to be seen.
But with a highly contagious illness like coronavirus, being seen in person could put others at risk. Deaconess is offering free electronic video visits for those who are concerned for their own health.
We want to be careful that we don't expose other patients who may be there for care, and that we not expose our healthcare workers as well. We need to keep them on the job and able to continue to take care of people.
But if doctors believe a person needs to be tested, a nasal and throat swab will be sampled in person and sent to the Indiana State Department of Health.
We may ask that you stay in your car and that staff would come out to the car. And staff would be well prepared and already wearing protective equipment and would put a mask on you before escorting you into the proper location.
Stay home. Don't get out into public places. Don't get yourself exposed if you don't have to be exposed. And just use really good common sense, and I think that'll go a long ways to keeping all of us safe and healthy.
And if you are placed in quarantine, you may be taken to a negative airflow room.
That sounds ominous, but our Jessica Costello went to Deaconess Midtown to talk to medical professionals about what these negative airflow rooms are really about.
If the coronavirus impacts you or someone you know, health officials say you'll be taken into an isolated area called a negative pressure room. But don't panic, its purpose isn't as scary as it may sound.
When you close the door on the negative pressure room, then that maintains all of the germs isolated inside the room. So the pressure is such that germs cannot come outside of the room.
Here's how it works. There's a ball in the wall so you can see the flow of the air. When you open the door, the air can escape. But when you close the doors and turn the negative air pressure on, the air is locked in tight.
If we did reach capacity with our negative air pressure rooms, maintenance and engineering has a plan where they can actually turn other rooms into negative pressure rooms.
Now, the rooms aren't completely isolated from all other rooms in the hospital. They just require the staff to put on protective gear before entering.
A patient's room adjacent to a negative pressure room, when proper protective equipment is used and proper isolation equipment is used, is of no danger to the patient in the room next door.
Visitors are allowed but limited in the negative airflow rooms. They just have to wear protective gear too. And you will still receive the same amount of care from medical staff no matter the reason you're in isolation.
Thanks, Jessica. Evansville, Owensboro, and Henderson. Several mayors from some of our largest cities are here tonight to talk to you about their city's preparations.
WNIN is happy to partner with 14 News WFIE this evening to bring you this special program.
If you're a regular viewer, you know that this is an important fundraising time for WNIN. We're suspending normal pledge programming to allow our viewers to participate in this important discussion.
As your local public media station, WNIN takes seriously its role in the tri-state community. We hope you find tonight's discussion helpful. If you'd like more information, please visit wnin.org. Thank you.
WNIN is all about being local. Whether we're keeping our viewers informed about local issues,
fraudsters aren't picky about who they talk to.
Candidates for Vanderburgh County Prosecutor.
or highlighting local talent,
music is more than just the soundtrack of our lives. It fuels us.
or exploring local topics.
We want people to have that first taste of change making, that you can actually design your community.
WNIN is all about being local.
Emergency preparedness is one of the primary functions of local government, but a pandemic isn't usually causing the trouble. So we asked the mayors of some of our largest cities in the tri-state to talk to us about it tonight.
Yeah, and we have the Vanderburgh County Health Department Health Officer, Dr. Kenneth Spear, who can focus on specific precautions being taken. So, Dr. Spear, he was involved in the decisions announced today, closing the EVSC schools, limiting crowds to 250. So that's now. What if we actually get cases in the county? Will those things ratchet up then even more?
We talked about what the next step might be. And if we start having positive cases in the county, I think we'll go to a public health emergency. Right now, we're under the governor's emergency provisions, and we're trying to follow his recommendations of 250, no more than 250.
What would a public health emergency look like?
It might even be stricter narrowing of the number of people in any given venue or whatever, but
Going down from the 250,
right,
even
down from there.
And who's eligible to be tested for coronavirus?
Right now, I was watching the news just before I came in here, and Dr. Fauci from the CDC was on, and he was saying they're trying to make it everyone can be tested if you want or need it. Up to this time, there was an algorithm you had to go through, and if you met the points of the algorithm, specimen would be obtained and sent to the Indiana State Department of Health, and then they would report back.
Connecticut is doing drive-through testing. Any chance of that, I guess, here coming up?
Not in the near future.
Not in the near future.
Right.
How many people have been tested in the county?
I can't really tell you that. Initially, I was getting a count, but then I think things got so hectic up at the state, they were going to only call me when they had positive results.
I see.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, we've got Evansville Mayor Lloyd Winnicky and also Henderson Mayor Steve Austin. Mayor Winnicky, you were involved in that news conference this afternoon. Can you just sort of hit the highlights for us?
Yeah, we wanted to, along with the county commissioners, affirm our decision to abide by Governor Holcomb's executive order to limit non-essential gatherings to no more than 250 people, restrictions relating to healthcare facilities, good hygiene, etc., and to support Dr. Spear's order to or recommendation to close schools.
And you know, Mayor Austin, are similar measures being taken in Henderson? Are we ever going to get to a point where we need curfews or things like that, do you think?
You know, our schools also have announced closing through March 27th. We've spent the last couple of days working to make sure that we're prepared with our emergency service folks, our police, fire, and ambulance service folks. And that's they are at risk probably more than anyone else in the community. So we've done a lot of work with them and gone through the state to see what we needed to do with our emergency management folks. But when a person calls 911 next week, they'll have a few extra questions that will be asked them to see how what kind of equipment that medical emergency responder should have on when he comes to their door.
Even just to prevent the illness for themselves.
Yes, yes. So.
Yeah. Mayor Winnicky, you certainly have something to say about what goes on at Ford Center and at the Victory Theater, but what about a place like the casino, Tropicana? Will there be stations there?
You know, that's probably a next step conversation. This has been mentioned several times tonight. This has been a quickly evolving issue. What we were talking about Monday, we're not talking about on Thursday, and I suspect what we're talking about today will be different than next Thursday. So that, I'm sure, will be part of the next step of conversations.
And what about both of your administrations? We're talking about the citywide population, but you've got large workforces that you want to keep healthy.
Yeah, we have 1,200 some odd employees, and we want to also maintain and will maintain the operation of city government. So we're making contingencies for employees to be able to work remotely, especially those employees who will have childcare issues as a result of closed schools.
15 seconds, Mayor Austin.
And we're doing that same thing. We've got some new policies that we put in, a 45-day policy on employee leave if we don't want them to come in if they're sick, they have a fever of 100.4, so on and so forth. And but we are working through the same system.
Very good.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, the travel industry already seeing a major impact from COVID-19. Travel agent Connie Corbett is live at Ambassador Travel in Evansville. So Connie, White House officials have already called for people to stay off cruise ships. Travel out of the country is discouraged. What kind of questions and concerns are you getting from some of your customers?
Well, we certainly understand travelers' concerns. It's a very fluid situation right now. And while everyone does have some respect and healthy concerns for the virus, most of our healthy travelers are most concerned about being quarantined and maybe not allowed back in the country, or maybe stuck somewhere where it's disruptive to their lives and they are unable to meet their obligations and their work responsibilities.
And of course, spring break travel almost here for those tri-state school districts. Are families canceling their trips, and that's what you're recommending here?
Well, you know, every family is a different situation. We've actually had some families take advantage of this extended break and flexibility with their children and have called to extend their spring break a little bit longer, or maybe add something onto it. So that's been delightful to hear. But we've also had some families very concerned about the virus and are canceling. We've seen unprecedented flexibility from many of the vacation providers, waiving some of those penalties and the fees if you want to make changes to your dates or your destinations. And so there's a lot of flexibility if travelers want to continue to travel or if they want to cancel or postpone their travel.
And Connie, just quickly here, what about people who have plans to travel over the summer? Should we sit tight for now, or should we make other arrangements for that too?
Really, the advice right now is if you're traveling beyond April, like we're seeing waivers from the vacation providers through towards the end of April, but beyond April, sit tight. If you're not incurring any more penalties between now and then, you may decide that you really do want to travel and you want to leave those plans intact. But even if you change your mind, as you get closer to the summer months, if there's still concerns, there may be additional waivers or refundabilities that come out closer to the time of travel. Right now, we're seeing those flexible penalties and fees waived about through the end of April.
Well, I know this is a very busy time for you. We thank you for taking time to join us here. Connie Corbett with Ambassador Travel. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Business leaders have to plan both how to handle sales and how to keep their businesses flowing. Information on how they're sharing ideas with each other coming up.
WNIN and 14 News WFIE are working together tonight to bring you this special program.
WNIN is suspending the pledge programming normally scheduled right now because we think this discussion is important. WNIN is committed to presenting timely, necessary, and accurate information to the community we serve.
During this time of concern and uncertainty, we hope you find tonight's discussion helpful. If you'd like more information, please visit WNIN.org. Thank you.
The Centers for Disease Control assesses the coronavirus risk to people in the U.S. as low right now, but this is a rapidly developing situation. Here's what you can do to limit your risk. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not readily available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. Taking these steps will help limit the spread of the virus.
Can you tell us what you know?
Turning back now to the race for the White House.
The State Board of Elections voted Thursday to set up a new election.
It must be a very emotional day.
the world changed in the blink of an eye.
Children are at the heart of this story.
What impact could coronavirus have on the tri-state economy? Well, earlier this week, Old National Bank had a conversation with business leaders at its headquarters. That talk turned into what protections local businesses should be putting in place right now. Here's Chelsea Parker.
A room full of community and business leaders came together this week at Old National Bank's headquarters to talk about the coronavirus.
What happens if there is a case that comes up in a setting that we're all somewhat responsible for?
The conversation included several topics, many concerning local businesses.
You want to protect the people in that building, potentially send them home. At that point in time, you want to think about what kind of cleaning services do you want to have lined up so you can quickly make that call.
Financial experts say the gaming and travel industries could be the first impacted by the coronavirus. It's something Ellis Park leaders say is not holding them back.
Here at Ellis Park, we've just added 100 additional HHR gaming machines to our floor. We've redone our food offerings. We've added a small buffet on the weekend.
Park officials say they're taking the threat of the virus seriously and want customers to know they're doing everything they can to prevent it.
We've reinforced our cleanliness standards. We've done food service training and cleanliness training for all our employees.
The hope is that all industries will be able to continue to operate until the coronavirus passes.
Scott Evernham, Chief Risk Officer from Old National Bank, organized that meeting with local business leaders. You saw him in that piece. He joins us now live right here in the studio. So, Scott, thanks for coming in tonight. I know everybody's really busy right now. Seems like a good idea to have some of our biggest employers put their heads together, right, for some potential solutions. What did you guys work out?
Yeah, well, it was a great conversation. Obviously, as many people have mentioned, this is a fluid situation and every day it's changing. And we thought it'd be a good idea. It was actually an idea of our CEO, Jim Ryan, to bring a lot of the large companies together that have a lot of employees, talk with the health professionals, find out how we can help with the community as we prepare for this.
What's your biggest concern?
From a business perspective, probably the biggest risk that the business community faces is the reduction in employees. So obviously, with the potential virus impacting associates might need to stay home with children, with schools being closed, or maybe being quarantined even potentially at some point in time. So we're trying to prepare if we have a reduction in employees that are able to work, how it is that we work through that so we can continue to provide services. But also protecting the health of our employees as well.
Even though ONB is a big company, you would be affected. But what about the mom and pop operations? If they get sick, that's real trouble.
Yeah, very difficult situation in that case. And that's again why it's important for the business community to come together, collaborate, and see how we can help others.
All right, Scott, thanks for coming in. Best of luck to you.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. Well, the coronavirus is churning the stock market too, and that has a lot of us concerned about our wallets. We have an expert in finance to give us some perspective.
WNIN is happy to partner with 14 News WFIE this evening to bring you this special program.
If you're a regular viewer, you know that this is an important fundraising time for WNIN. We're suspending normal pledge programming to allow our viewers to participate in this important discussion.
As your local public media station, WNIN takes seriously its role in the tri-state community. We hope you find tonight's discussion helpful. If you'd like more information, please visit WNIN.org. Thank you.
The FDA is allowing hundreds of public health labs around the country to test for the coronavirus in an attempt to contain the spread of the disease. In an exclusive interview with the Health Channel, an expert with one of the developers of the test explains why getting the disease diagnosed quickly is so important.
Limiting the spread of the infection. I think that's the key, is how can we do that fast? Because the more that we can do that, the less impact that it has on people, less impact that it has on global economies. We can actually identify, quarantine, treat people rapidly.
Officials say expanded testing is critical for a fast and effective response to the disease.
WNIN is all about being local. Whether we're keeping our viewers informed about local issues
Fraudsters aren't picky about who they talk to.
Candidates for Vanderburgh County Prosecutor.
or highlighting local talent,
music is more than just the soundtrack of our lives. It fuels us.
or exploring local topics.
We want people to have that first taste of change making, that you can actually design your community.
WNIN is all about being local.
Why stock markets fell so much. Do they see it coming back quickly after that, or should we be concerned in maybe doing some trading or whatnot?
Yeah, that is a big question people are asking tonight. As stocks dropped 10%, the biggest one-day loss since 1987, we are now in bear market territory. So let's get some money perspective from University of Evansville professor of finance, Dr. Wally Kahn. So, Dr. Kahn, just today, President Trump said that once this coronavirus clears, then the stock market goes right back up where it was. Is that too simple?
Yeah, let me answer the question that lady asked, and it will include answer to your question. Number one question is why there's a global market bloodbath in Wall Street lingo. Today is the ideal day to use the term bloodbath all over the world. Okay, simple. Two terms: expected future corporate earnings and the risk factor. Market is perceiving that the future earnings will go down, and the risk index has already gone up. VIX is 72. And now the analytical question should be, so why the numerator market is expecting will go down? It is always a numerator, expected future earnings, and the risk is in the denominator. Remember that.
Okay.
Everything will become very easy, crystal clear.
All right.
Numerator, denominator, right?
Okay.
Why? Three reasons, and I will explain one by one. One is declining oil prices, coronavirus, and fiscal and monetary stimulus.
Yes.
Now, number one, oil is trading at $31 today. Not only Russia and Saudi Arabia will lose plus $100 billion, our shale companies will be in a disastrous situations. They have already cut down their capital spending plans, investment plans, and there will be bankruptcies.
Yes.
Right? So that will translate to decline in corporate profits.
We've got 30 seconds.
Yes. Coronavirus, we know. The reason is everything is shut down. And then fiscal and monetary stimulus, lot of uncertainty, no specifics. We don't know, with so many questions. Now, and the market is thinking, so the numerator will go down. Now, on denominator risk factor, when will Russia and Saudi Arabia behave? When will coronavirus will behave? When will our leaders behave, right? In last global financial crisis, they got together, they forgot their ideological differences. They said, ship is sinking, let's have a coordinated plan.
All right.
When will they have this plan?
All right.
So these are three uncertainties which are making denominator up, numerator down. I showed the reason the markets are bleeding.
All right, we're going to have to stop right there, but we sure appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Jackie?
Think you do a good job washing your hands? So did our Shaylee Clark. Get some tips from the experts just ahead.
WNIN and 14 News WFIE are working together tonight to bring you this special program.
WNIN is suspending the pledge programming normally scheduled right now because we think this discussion is important. WNIN is committed to presenting timely, necessary, and accurate information to the community we serve.
During this time of concern and uncertainty, we hope you find tonight's discussion helpful. If you'd like more information, please visit WNIN.org. Thank you.
As the coronavirus spreads around the world, the anxiety associated with a global epidemic can be almost as dangerous as the disease itself. Here's some advice.
We are going to be inundated with information, and some of it's going to be very factual, but some of the information may be a little bit catastrophized. I'm kind of setting a limit to the amount of information that they're getting and making sure that they're getting it from reliable health sources. being really mindful to get adequate sleep, to eat healthy, to maintain social connectedness, especially in this time to kind of share with peers concerns. Maybe introducing some deep breathing each day is another way to kind of stay mindful, to stay grounded when there are these kind of external stressors that we're facing.
One more thing, face masks probably won't help protect you, experts say, but washing your hands can limit the spread of infection.
Every week on WNIN Lawmakers, we'll talk to the politicians that represent you about the issues that are important to you. This week, our scheduled guests are Senator Vanita Becker and Representative Wendy McNamara. Watch WNIN Lawmakers Fridays at 10 p.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m. on WNIN PBS.
One easy way to keep the germs from spreading is washing your hands. May sound easy, but are you washing them correctly? Shaylee Clark stopped by Owensboro Health Regional Hospital and found out how.
Well, you've heard health officials talking about the importance of keeping our hands clean, whether that be hand sanitizer or, of course, soap and water. But before you say, "Don't tell me how to wash my hands, I know how to wash my hands," well, think again, because 20 seconds can make a big difference.
It's not going to hurt or sting.
First, let's take a look at the germs.
This or smell
is kind of scary. Glow gel and a black light will show you things you don't want to see. Those white spots are the germs.
See how it's gathered at the bases of your fingers as well.
So time to wash.
People, they tend to go real quick, kind of like this, because we're in a hurry all the time.
But the black light will show you a quick rinse, even with soap, doesn't do any good. My hands were still covered in germs.
You did not do a very good job.
It looks like I hardly touched them.
It does.
That's why medical professionals like Stephanie Lawson keep stressing the importance of 20 seconds.
But when you're scrubbing, pay close attention to your fingernails and your palms.
You want to lather, scrub for 20 seconds, or sing happy birthday twice, and then dry.
Well,
much better.
Much, much better. People are in a hurry and they don't take the full 20 seconds that they need to make sure that they're cleaning their hands thoroughly and frequently.
So next time you have to go or pick up your phone,
cell phones,
just remember,
keep calm and wash your hands.
And one way you can also help stop the spread of this virus is making sure your home is clean, you're doing it properly, and also common spaces. The Centers for Disease Control recommends some specific products as being most effective. Aria Janelle shows us some of those top cleaning supplies.
The CDC has a long list of products they suggest you use when cleaning and disinfecting your home. Now, before you do anything, the CDC suggests that you put on gloves. Now, these can be one-time use or reusable gloves, but if you're going to use reusable gloves, they ask that you only use them when disinfecting and cleaning for this particular virus. Before you disinfect anything, the CDC suggests using hot water and soap to clean all dirty surfaces that are touched a lot. For example, your doorknobs, desks, and toilets. Then follow up with a disinfectant to kill germs. This is where the CDC's list comes in. You're looking for items like this: Clorox disinfecting wipes, Lysol's toilet bowl sanitary, and Clorox cleaner plus bleach. All of these products you can find in local stores. If you're unsure of what items to use on certain surfaces, the CDC recommends following the instructions on the label. This goes for carpets, curtains, and clothes. To find a full list of recommended cleaners by the CDC, you can head to our website, 14news.com. In Evansville, Aria Janelle, 14 News.
All right, thank you, Aria, and we'll be back with some final thoughts in a moment.
WNIN is happy to partner with 14 News WFIE this evening to bring you this special program.
If you're a regular viewer, you know that this is an important fundraising time for WNIN. We're suspending normal pledge programming to allow our viewers to participate in this important discussion.
As your local public media station, WNIN takes seriously its role in the tri-state community. We hope you find tonight's discussion helpful. If you'd like more information, please visit WNIN.org. Thank you.
As health experts around the world grapple with the growing epidemic of the novel coronavirus, a pattern is emerging of those most vulnerable. Older adults and people who have severe chronic medical infections seem to be at higher risk. If you do suspect you have the coronavirus, it's important to protect those close to you.
Avoid any contact that is not absolutely necessary. And if you have to do anything, wash your hands properly. And that means soap and water. That seems to be very adequate. Also clean the surfaces around you with either wipes or bleach. It's also important not to panic even if you have contracted the disease. Contact your healthcare professional and seek for advice.
Fever, dry cough, and trouble breathing are common coronavirus symptoms according to the National Institutes of Health.
Can you tell us what you know?
Turning back now to the race for the White House.
The State Board of Elections voted Thursday to set up a new election.
It must be a very emotional day.
The world changed in the blink of an eye.
Children are at the heart of this story.
Here, told you about that Owensboro couple quarantined on the cruise ship. Chris and Nikki Hall, they are on the bus to the airport headed to Dobbins Air Force Base in Georgia.
Wow, not a moment too soon, I know, for them.
Yeah, thanks for watching this community conversation. It's been an informative night with local leaders and school officials.
That's right, and before we head out, we've got a great tool to keep your family safe and informed. An entire section on the 14 News app and at 14news.com.
And there you find the most up-to-date information from right here in the Tri-State. Thanks for watching tonight.